It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
Please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Dr. Mohamad Bydon. Hello, Dr. Bydon. How are you?
Hi, Doug. It's great to be with you today.
Oh, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. Let's see. Today we're going to be talking about back and neck pain, which I'm kind of happy to be talking about that because I suffer from neck pain a lot, probably just because of my job of sitting in front of a computer and a microphone for many hours, and I get very stiff and sore neck. And I've tried, the ergonomic chairs, and I've tried all these different things, but it's just, I think sitting in one position for a long time can kind of stress out my neck. What can you recommend for people who sit for long periods of time?
Yeah, so, what you're describing, Doug, is exactly the reason that we put the book together. And if I can, for just a moment, just for your listeners, and the fact that you've had this issue exemplifies this point exactly. This is some of the most common issues that people complain about in medicine in America today. So you should be aware 80% of Americans, 80% will have problems related to their neck or back such that they have to seek medical attention at some point in their lives. And back pain is the number one reason to see your doctor. Neck pain is the number 3 reason. So 2 of the top 5 reasons are back and neck pain. Now, what you're describing of, sitting around sedentary, we're seeing this more and more. And the last year with COVID has actually made this worse, not better. So what I mean by that is, people used to be in an office with maybe an ergonomic chair, an ergonomic keyboard. Now they're at home on the couch. They're slouching more. The posture is worse. Yeah. Sitting next to the fridge, eating even more. And so all of those things have exacerbated, the back and neck issues and certainly not made them any better.
Well, yeah, I would agree. I think especially COVID has not helped people because especially people who are in some of the strict lockdown states where they literally couldn't get out of the house. So what are they going to do? A lot of people started writing books. I know I've got a whole bunch of authors that have come on the show in the last year, and all of them have said, all I did was sit there all day. So what do we do? I mean, do we just have to take a break from this kind of routine and get up and stretch or do some yoga or buy a massage chair, or what can we do to alleviate these pains?
Well, there's a number of things, and we go over them in the book. I mean, so first, the majority of back and neck issues don't result in surgery. Some do, and many people get concerned of, oh no, I'm going to need surgery. But your listeners should be aware that there's newer ways of doing these surgeries that are less invasive, minimally invasive, robotic, where we can do surgeries more effectively, more safely, with sub-millimeter accuracy. The majority of back and neck pain, of course, is non-surgical, and so for the majority of it, we'd be looking at the use of anti-inflammatories, the use of heat packs, ice packs, exercises, stretches. And this is where we get into the preventative component. Your best bet is having something that's core strengthening such that you can be stronger so that there's less strain on your neck and back. In addition to, weight loss and things of that nature. So there's a variety of different tactics and strategies that we go over in the book, in addition to specific exercises and specific stretches that could be very helpful for the neck and back.
Okay, now you mentioned surgery, and I know that back surgery used to be something that people really had to consider because, as I remember, a friend of mine was in a very serious car accident back in 1980-something, and the doctors told him that he would require surgery, and at that time they said it was the 50% chance that they would fix whatever it was, and a 50% chance that it'd be worse than when he started. Now, has that improved? I forget exactly what it was, but it was a very sensitive surgery.
Much better. So much better. So when you look at the national outcomes in terms of surgery, there have been significant improvements over the past several decades, to the point that 90% of people who've had neck surgery say they would have it again for the same resolution of symptoms that they got, and 80% of people who've had low back surgery say they would have it again for the same resolution of symptoms that they got. So the success rates in terms of what patients say, yep, it was worth it, it's 80% for low back and 90% for neck. So much better than the 50% that was there several decades ago.
And is this a direct result of the robotic surgery procedures now?
No, some of that was just improvements upon the traditional surgeries, and the robotics are going to carry those percentages even higher. And so a lot of, in the past 5-10 years, there have been significant advances in the kind of technology that we can utilize during our surgeries to make it safer, more effective, and more efficient. So we're just starting to see the benefits of those now.
Are people that require back and neck surgery, it's as a result of an injury, car accident, sports injury, something like that?
That can be. That's a traumatic type. So there are people who have falls, who have sports injuries, who have car accidents. That's more on the traumatic type. But the most common back and neck injuries are degenerative, which is wear and tear over time. Those are still, far more common in terms of back and neck injuries.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, can you give us some tips? Give us some things some specific things that people could do?
So absolutely. So generally, core strengthening is going to be key, because the stronger your core is, the less strain there is on the muscles and bones and joints of the neck and back. That's one. Two, if things hurt, don't do them. So if an activity or an exercise hurts, don't do it. That's your body telling you it's too much. And then three, I would just add that two things that often are under, discussed in this area is, one of them, stress. Increased stress is a major factor in increased pain. And so things that lower your stress are going to be a good thing. And then four is going to be improved sleep. Poor quality sleep is also a major factor in increasing pain. And so improvements in the quality and the nature of your sleep are also going to be very important.
Now, when you say the quality of sleep, are you referring to the bed, like the quality of the mattress?
Well, that's a part of it. I mean, there's a lot of sleep hygiene of, no blue screens before sleep, and avoid caffeine and alcohol before sleep and things like that. But other things, generally a firm mattress is better than a soft mattress. And generally you want your neck in a neutral position, whether you sleep on your back or on your side. So some of those are just some of the basics that we go over. Okay.
I've heard people tell me that sleeping with pillows is not good, but it's absolutely impossible for me to sleep without a pillow.
No, well, I mean, you're talking about a pillow, but what you see sometimes is people using 4 or 5 pillows. And the reason that that's not good for your back is you're then flexing your back and flexing your neck, and you're sleeping that's okay for a little bit, but now you're doing it for many, many hours overnight. And so that's where that becomes less than ideal and can cause pain when you wake up. So generally you want a neutral position when you're sleeping overnight.
What do you mean by a neutral position?
So you want your neck in a neutral position. So if your neck's too far back, it's extended. If it's too far forward, it's flexed. And so you want to aim for a neutral sort of middle position.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. I mean, you can start out that way, but I tend to move around a lot when I'm sleeping. And when I wake up, I have no idea what position I'm in.
Right. I mean, there are things, during sleep that, you just can't control. But the key is when you start off that way, you still set yourself up for a better and more ergonomic, sleep than if you start off with 5 pillows.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. That's good. Is there any types of food that people who experience, and this might sound kind of ridiculous, but people who experience frequent neck and back pain that they should avoid?
No, not necessarily in terms of food. What I would say broadly is a healthy diet and maintaining a healthy weight are important for back and neck health.
And what about people that sit at their desks for long periods of time? Is there any kind of tools or things? I've seen like foot rests. I've seen all kinds of different gadgets that people claim help improve your posture, help improve is there any of those?
Yep, all of those are fine in terms of a short-term, in terms of a short-term solution. Anything that improves your posture, that's a good thing. And those different gadgets, the footrest, the things like that, I would follow a couple of principles. One, if it hurts, don't use it. So it shouldn't be hurting you. So ideally, it shouldn't hurt. So that's number one. Number two is, just to make sure not to overutilize any single thing. Even the braces that sometimes people use, if you overutilize them too much, they end up weakening your back muscle. So just be aware of that. But use them in moderation and just be sure to preserve good posture when you're sitting or standing. And in the book, we show illustrations of exactly what that looks like so we can help guide you to better understand that.
In your practice, do you find that the most people that come to you with back injury is through improper lifting of heavy items? That's very common.
But again, if you're set up with poor back and neck habits, then things like that are more likely to be exacerbated in your case, if that makes sense. So that's where the preventative comes into it, where if you do, the types of preventative things that we've been discussing, then you're more likely to not have small things set you off into a very severe back problem.
Okay. Any plans for another book in the future?
Well, we don't do too many of these books. The reason that we did this one is because we thought it was, A, it's so prevalent, and B, there's so much, misunderstanding and I think well-intentioned people out there, but we saw that they were leading patients in the wrong direction. So we just wanted a Mayo Clinic authoritative guide to this is how you take care of your neck and back, from people you trust and from our many great experts here at Mayo Clinic. Okay, great.
I guess the last question, and then we can wrap it up, is do you have a website that you want to give out, either for the book or...
So people, we have a Facebook page and a Twitter page. They're both linked to Mohamad Bydon, MD. And also you can purchase the book on Amazon.com or at Target, Walmart, or Barnes & Noble website.
All right, great. Well, Dr. Bydon, thank you for coming on and sharing, and hopefully people can take away some tips on how to improve their back and their neck pains. And best of luck.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
You're listening to Mr. Smooth and Savvy right here on the Douglas Coleman Show. We'll be right back after these commercial messages.
Douglas Coleman's Don't Do a Podcast is a dryly humorous rant about Douglas's pet peeve, the unrelenting torrent of podcasts hitting the web on a constant basis. As technology has put podcasting within the reach of anyone, many wholly unqualified people have taken the plunge. This witty polemic tries to persuade them from broadcasting their drivel using Douglas's brand of sarcastic humor. Now on Amazon, only 99 cents.
DJC Music and DJC Productions are pleased to announce a brand new website. We have started a listing website for radio show hosts as well as potential show guests. This is a meeting site where hosts and guests can come together. Show hosts can list their show and types of guests they're interested in booking. Potential guests can list their talents, bio, accomplishments, or anything they feel makes them an interesting radio show guest. There are no recurrent payments, only a one-time $5 listing fee. Your listing will stay up until you decide to cancel. Previous guests of The Douglas Coleman Show are welcome to submit their guest listing free of charge. Go to radiohostsandguests.com. That's radiohostsandguests.com.
Love coffee, huh? But wait a minute. It seems like every time you finish a cup of coffee, you get all of these side effects along with it. Heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, acid reflux. As the world's first and only organic acid-free coffee, Tyler's Coffee is able to provide a healthier option in the solution for more than 100 million individuals who have sensitive stomachs or suffer from acid-related modalities. This is Tyler's acid-free coffee. Coffee without the consequences.
Hi, this is John Morgan, Production Supervisor for DJC Productions, and you're listening to The Douglas Coleman Show.
Okay, please welcome to The Douglas Coleman Show, Dr. Janice Fletcher. Hello, Dr. Fletcher. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me on your show, and you can just call me Janice.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you for coming on the show, Janice. I appreciate it. This looks like kind of an interesting topic that we're going to be talking about today. OWL.
Yeah.
Which is...
Well, OWL stands for Optimal Wisdom Learning. Mm-hmm.
Okay. First question right off the bat. I didn't think wisdom was something that could be taught. I thought it was something one had to gain through experience.
Well, there can be different definitions of wisdom. For me, wisdom is truth. And the process of optimal wisdom learning is teaching people what's happening within them naturally all the time. They're not aware of it, most of us, and that is the aha moment, which I call it the OWL moment because that's how we learn optimally. And when that happens, that means truth is coming through rather than our mind creating or working or gaining through experience. It's actual truth being downloaded through our right brain. So I equate wisdom as truth.
Okay. Well, that's kind of vague, but let's see if we can define that a little bit better for people to understand it. Now, when you mean truth and when you mean wisdom, can you give us an example of an aha moment?
Well, sure. I think that everybody can relate to it. It is those times, and we know that we've had them because everyone has said to themselves, "Oh, I knew that," or "I knew I shouldn't have done that," or "I knew I shouldn't have said that," or "I knew that was going to happen." How did you know? You knew that because truth had come through and given you that information, that answer, that solution, whatever it was, and then you didn't pay attention to it, or you didn't know that it, you didn't equate it to an aha moment. But anyway, we all have these experiences all the time, and it is my quest to have people recognize that they are happening, how they happen. There are 6 steps to them, to how they happen. And the more you become aware of them, then the more readily they come through, and the more truth you are being guided by. We have 2 parts of our brain. We have the left brain and the right brain. And the left brain is the linear, logical, mathematical kind of computation, kind of a computer. And the right brain is the creative, linear picture kind of creativity, spirit-induced intuition area. And so what happens is that you have a question or a quest, and you can look at the aha moment from any perspective. Some people like to look at it biologically or physiologically, looking at the left brain and the right brain and the actual literal physical characteristics of it. As a scientist, we can look at the biology of it. We can look at it from a psychological point of view. You can look at it from a spiritual point of view. And so whatever lens works for you of how you look at it, the process is the same. And you start with a quest. What is in school, it might be, we're trying to figure out the solution to a mathematical problem or something, or some sort of creative solution. And, spiritually, what is the meaning of life or whatever. Whatever the question may be, there is a question or a quest in which we begin trying to figure out the answer or the solution. And when we go into the process of figuring out the question or the solution, we go into our left brain, which is our computer, and that is where you have referred to all of the experiences that we've had, whether it be official schooling or just experiences that we can call upon to then formulate and compute and answer. And so our left brain works on that and works on that and works on that and tries to figure it out. We might ask other people. We might do research. We might be in a group setting and we're all brainstorming. We're trying to figure out the solution or whatever. And then that's the first step. We are in fact questing and looking and seeking the answer. Spiritually, you could think about it. You're seeking it. And then what eventually happens in the process is, we'll be in a committee meeting and we'll say, well, let's just table it to next week, or we're working on it on our own, and we just say, I'm tired for a while, I'm going to go take a walk, or, I'm going to deal with that tomorrow, or I've run out of time, whatever it is. There's something that happens in which we actually literally sort of give up. We give up trying to figure it out. And so when we give up, that is the second step, and the second step is the surrender step, and that is when, spiritually, there's always the dark night of the soul. I give up, there is a divine, I bow to it or whatever. On the physical plane, it's like I give up, I don't know the answer, I'm just taking a break. And then what happens is that our left brain gets quiet. So that leads us into the third step. And then when our left brain finally says, I'm done and I can't work on this anymore, there'll be some time and where our brains will go into what we call the alpha state. And the alpha state is that semi-dreamy kind of state where the intuition or the truth or the wisdom that I'm talking about can come through. And it comes through the right brain rather than the left brain. And so we all have our ways of accessing our alpha states, whether we realize it or not, or whether we're intentionally doing it or not. Many people, could be in the shower, could be in the bath. There's some sort of water conduit kind of thing or whatever for people. You might be walking your dog. You might be in the zone when you're running, whatever it is that gets you not thinking. And you can, go back to Google where they had their employees that wanted to be the most creative people in the world have ping pong tables and all sorts of games to play while they were working, because the creative mind does better when it is free and open and so on. Anyway, so there'll be a time that we'll be walking our dog or doing whatever. It might be 4 days later, and all of a sudden the answer or the solution will pop into our head. And aha, there you go. That's the eureka. That's the epiphany or whatever. And it's like, that's the answer, right? And then you get the answer, the solution, or should I buy this house or that house? No, I need to buy this house because, or, this is the meaning of life, a little bit of it anyway. Whatever it is, we get the answer. Now, there's characteristics of this wisdom, of the aha, of the epiphany, that prove it to be true. And the number one way is you just know it. You just know, you can feel it, you know it, there's no doubt in your mind whatsoever. It's like, of course that's the answer, that makes the most sense, that just like resonates as truth. Some people might get shivers or whatever, it doesn't matter. But you actually feel it. And anyway, so the most important part of this happening is the part that I want to get people to realize is when this happens and it comes through, that is truth. That is wisdom coming through. That is the absolute correct answer or not. Oftentimes, and I, like you and everybody else, have many stories where we didn't follow that guidance. We didn't listen to that truth that came through, and we did, because it was uncomfortable, we didn't want it, it didn't make sense, it was like ridiculous. And so you don't do it. And then you find out later on, that's when you say, I knew I shouldn't have done that, but I had to do it. I didn't do it. I knew that. I knew I shouldn't have done that. So there again proves the truth. So the most important thing is when this truth comes through is to listen to it. So that's the next step. Not only does it come in, but most of them just come and go, and we don't even know that they happened. Just poof, gone, and then on to the next thought. So when that truth comes in, to listen to it. And then the next step is really the hardest if you don't like the answer, and oftentimes we don't because it might not be what we want, and that is to follow or to act on the guidance. And to, do buy this house, don't buy this house. Well, that's the best deal in the whole world. Why am I not going to buy that house? Whatever. Marry this person, don't, or whatever the thing is. So to act on it is very difficult. But Einstein explained the left-right brain to us, and he said the left brain, as I said, is a computer. And in that computer, it is a faithful servant, is how he referred to it, because it's literally you put data in, you get data out, it can compute to a certain degree of whatever, and that's what you get. The right brain is a sacred gift, Einstein refers to it as, and there, as the sacred gift, the sacred adjective and gift, but the sacred adjective is the meaning that it is truth coming through. That's where the scientists, that's where the inventors, that's where the artists get their information. They're not getting it in the left brain. The left brain we must have. We can't tie our shoes unless we have both. We have to stay balanced. Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, probably the best example of that. She was a brain. What is she? She's special. She knows all about the brain. She's devoted her life to the brain, and lo and behold, she ended up with a stroke. Major stroke, shut down her entire left brain, right? So she was living in this godly, euphoric, spiritual world, but she couldn't tie her shoes, right? So anyway, we have to have both. So the next step is to then act on it. And once we act on it, then at some point in time, the final step will come true. And it may be years later that there will be something that it will prove its truth. You know, you will have bought the house, and then a decade later you'll go, oh, well, if I hadn't lived here, then I wouldn't have done whatever.
Okay.
That's a really long answer, but I hope it made sense.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to kind of tie this together with your books, because you've got two books, Teach with Spirit and Wisdom from the Inner Teacher, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
So what would be, or why would somebody want to improve on this? I mean, what benefit are they going to have in their life if they read your book and they get a better understanding of the OWL principle? How is this going to benefit them?
Well, I'm an educator, so these books were based on me being an educator and written for teachers. However, this applies to everyone. And so I'm branching out and actually writing a third book. I've written it, I guess, that I'm doing during COVID, and it's called My Life's Magical Moments, Ahas, Insights, and Miracles. And it's a memoir about moments in my life where, you know, in spiritual perspectives and so on. So the point is that it applies to everyone. So either one of these books, even though they're written under the context of this is how the teacher should teach and this is how the classroom works or whatever, and anyone would benefit by it, because, and that's why I have to branch out beyond my educator background, because it just applies to everyone, because everybody is faced with these moments and questions that they want to have answers to. And everybody has the ability to use only their left brain and compute, or use in addition to the left brain the intuition that comes through, the wisdom that comes through, that is the guidance. The ultimate reason that you want to know about this or want to be able to, you know, become more aware of it is because the more you're aware of it, the more it happens. The more that you pay attention to the fact that you had an aha happen, and not only have like respect for it and gratitude for it, or even if you look back in your life and say, yeah, I remember when I had to like make this decision and nobody thought I should do that, but I knew what the right thing to do was and I did it. And, you know, and that feeling of that gift that Einstein was talking about, you want more of this gift because you're not going to make a wrong decision. The more we can rely on our intuition or truth or wisdom, the better off every single aspect of our life is, you know, about which way I should go, how I should think, what I should do. So everybody's life is enhanced by it. The other interesting thing about these is you can't demand them. Like when you were saying, how can somebody create this? You can't, because it's a gift, if you will, from where, if you want to call source God, I don't know where it comes from, but wherever it's coming from in your right brain, however you want to define that, it comes through when it wants to. That's why it only comes through when we are in our alpha state of mind.
Okay.
We can sit there and drink as much caffeine as we want and try and figure out the problem, but until we actually give it up and surrender, then it will come through.
Do you think a lot of people get confused, like they don't know which side of the brain a particular thought or thing is coming from? Like you might think it's from the right brain, but it's actually from the left?
Absolutely. And that's my purpose in life, is to have people become aware of the distinction. And the distinction and how that happens is you literally just, it's actually, to me, very fun. You know, it's like, I'm getting to the age now where, you know, you don't remember everything, and then the answer comes in a few days later or whatever, and it's like, there's that. But that's not the same as, you know, trying to find a solution to a problem or whatever. So it really comes back to self-observation, to becoming the observer of our own thoughts. And you can play with it, you can test it out. As I was saying, you can't demand when you're going to get the answer and what the answer is going to be. But the more that you do it, the more space there will be in your right brain for it to be there, and it just is inherent. It's like the more you practice anything, it's like a muscle. You know, there's actual, for those biology people, physiological people, the corpus callosum that goes between the right and the left brain, physically is there. And what we're actually doing, it's like a rickety little road now with little connections, and we're trying to make it into a super highway physically. Okay, so that the information can go back and forth and open up and so on. But anyway, the ultimate is the more you do it, the more you'll realize it, the more you will feel it, the more you will know it, and the more it will happen.
Well, I've had conversations with a lot of authors, with musicians. I'm myself a lifelong musician, singer, songwriter, and a lot of us can't control how to get into that right brain space because we need to get there in order to create. We need to get there to write songs, to think of great ideas, storylines, all of that. And everybody has their own sort of ideas and techniques. But what's worked with me in the past is driving alone. If I get in the car and get on the freeway and just drive, all of a sudden I can get into that zone. But I can't really control it. It just sort of happens, and then it's kind of inconvenient because then I need to write things down. And well, what we used to do back in the old days before internet was I would take my mobile phone and I would call my house and sing into the answering machine so that when I got home it was on tape and I had it, so I wouldn't forget it by the time I got home. Nowadays you can just record it right on your smartphone or whatever, but not everybody can control that. So I'm wondering, does your book give any kind of a way to hone in on that ability?
No, I'm laughing because it's such joy because you are such a great example. I mean, every musician and artist and so on is like, I'm sorry to say, but really is more advanced in this than us mortals that are still trying to get into those zones. But you have done what I suggest that you do, and you have observed within yourself all of these things, and you've recognized, I really need to get, beyond my writer's block or beyond my, I need to get into that zone so I can create. And, because it is, for me, if you will, divine, no, we can't control it. And that, therefore, we do have these stumbling blocks or whatever. What we can do is become aware of when we're there and when we're not. And what we can do is drive more, But see, the minute that you try and do it, it doesn't work.
No, it never does. It never does. If I try to, say, okay, Tuesday at 9 o'clock, I'm going to sit at the piano and write a song, forget it. Yeah. It'll never work.
That's why. Why the last chapter of Teach with Spirit, I was done with the book completely, and my husband is a much better writer than I am, and so we've always shared. He gives me his words and chapters. I give him whatever. Anyway, and he's a top editor or whatever. So anyway, I was done with the book, and I was asleep or whatever, 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't even remember what time it is. I wrote it down in there. I got up. I don't know why. I walked down through things and I got into my office and I started writing these few pages, and I wrote these few pages and I put them on the kitchen counter and went back to bed and whatever. And the next morning my husband had read them, and he's never not, had some edit somewhere. He said, well, that's perfect. When did you write that? And I said, well, I was 3 o'clock in the morning. I wasn't intending to write it. Janice wasn't there. Janice was still asleep somewhere, and somehow my body got downstairs and, wrote out these words. And because I wasn't there and I wasn't trying to do it, just like your music, when you get, and it just happened. Now, was it convenient at 3 o'clock in the morning? No. Did I have any control over it? No. If I had tried to wake myself up and do that. But that's why you have to play with it. You have to play with it and appreciate it. And then let's say, for instance, that you are driving, and even if you're on a schedule and you've got to be there, and all of a sudden you're driving and the music comes through, pull over to the side of the road and honor this gift that's coming through. Say there's nothing more important than what's happening right now that this information is coming through. Interestingly, I don't know if you know the author Elizabeth Gilbert, but another aha thing just happened with this book that I'm just claiming it as a book, this writing that I've done of my memoir. And I had read one of her books. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love, right? So I had one of her other books that I was reading. Got done with it like you do with an author. I looked her up, didn't know that that's who she was. Just chose another book. She had a bunch of them. And there was one entitled something about magic and creative living. And I thought, oh, that looks like fun. And I bought it. I was on the treadmill at the gym. And anyway, I read the book, and it's all about letting go of fear, which is what I'm trying to do as a writer, because I don't claim myself as a writer. Anyway, letting go of fear and allowing the creative. And so, she has the complete conversation about how this creativity that comes through is our friend, and that we need to honor it, and that we need to respect it, and that we need to play with it. And so that's what you do, is you honor its schedule. You know, you don't have a schedule. You just ask, and then you be grateful, and then you give it its time and its due when the information comes forth. And most importantly, is the hardest thing is to really listen to it and act on it, not trying to change it with our own left brain. You know, it's just like, this is pure, Einstein says, sacred gift coming through. So that's truth. That's why I talk about truth. When you write your music and your lyrics, you know it's right. That's it. It's like, there it is.
Well, especially with the music, because I didn't study theory. And that's a whole nother conversation, because that's, to me, that was mixing the right and the left brain to do the same thing, to achieve the same task. And I get into a lot of arguments with music theory majors about this. But for me, it doesn't work, because I would rather have the pure right brain experience, putting the song together just by sound, rather than by some mathematical formula, which is music theory. We've got about 2 minutes left, and I just wanted to hit on, you have a website that you want to give out so that people can check you out or check out your books?
Sure, thank you. It's Janice, Janic, Fletcher.com. Pretty easy, JaniceFletcher.com.
Okay, super. Well, thanks so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun. I know we could have went on for a long time on this topic. It's a pretty big topic, but I hope that...
thank you for allowing me to just talk and talk.
Oh, no problem.
I talk too much. That's why
No, my pleasure. It makes my job very easy. I just can keep watch of the clock.
Right.
Thank you for coming on. It was nice meeting you. Nice talking to you.
Thank you so much for the time, and I hope that somebody out here in your audience will benefit in some form.